Hey, folks, Venezuela. We're going to talk about Venezuela. There's two things about Venezuela that everybody must know. One, socialism versus capitalism. Two, the most important is the petrodollar. Do you know what the petrodollar is? I'm going to explain it to you because it's vitally important and the reason why we have invaded Venezuela and trying to take it over. My name is Dean Charles. This is Between the Left and a Hard Place. We are a center-left, center, maybe even center-right podcast. We're just trying to be in the middle, okay? So this is the point of view from the middle. And let's go. Okay, folks, we're going to talk about the petrodollar first and why it's so important, and socialism versus capitalism and how this ties in to the whole picture of why we invaded Venezuela. Okay, but first let's talk about the petrodollar. The petrodollar really comes from a deal Henry Kissinger made in the mid-70s, like 1974 or so with Saudi Arabia, that all oil would be sold in U.S. dollars. In return, we provided protection to Saudi Arabia. It was worth it to them, I guess. And since then, until recently, all oil was sold in U.S. dollars. Really, really important to the United States economy. Because of selling in U.S. dollars, our whole financial system was built on it. The petrodollar, really. We were built on the petrodollar. All oil sold globally was priced in U.S. dollars. So that meant every country on earth needed dollars to buy oil. So let America print unlimited money while other countries had to basically work for it. The petrodollar funds the military, the welfare state, and deficit spending here in the United States, which is now trillions and trillions of dollars, right? It's a really important part of the U.S. economy. And without it, where do we stand? That's a tough call. Now, you may have thought that what President Trump did was authoritarian, and in a lot of senses it was. I personally believe he should have gone to Congress. In fact, they briefed Congress, from what I understand, and said they would not invade Venezuela without Congress's approval. And they wound up not doing that. So that's a pretty big deal as far as the Constitution and what it says about presidency at this point, President Donald Trump and his staff. That's a question that we have to think about. But let me get into that a little later also. Let's just talk about the petrodollar. This war isn't about anything that you might think. It's strictly about the petrodollar. It's not about drugs. It's not about terrorism. It's not even about democracy in a sense. It's about the petrodollar. Venezuela recently has said they were going to break away and they applied to join BRICS. Now, if you don't know what BRICS is Iran, Russia, China, trying to form a new economic world system where things are not bought with the dollar. And as you might think, things are bought in Chinese yuan, but also ruples, euros, whatever. People can pay for oil and whatever currency they would like. That's what the BRICS economy is. Venezuela had said they were going to start purchasing oil in Chinese yuan and not the U.S. dollar. So that's why the United States is in kind of a bad situation if that were to happen. So I agree that it's not the best situation for America or the United States, especially since Venezuela has the biggest oil reserves in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, 303 barrels of, proven oil resources from what I understand. And the largest on earth, more than Saudi Arabia. 20% of the world's oil is in Venezuela. Untapped oil, really, because I think they only produce 1 million barrels a day, if I'm not mistaken, something like that, maybe less. You have the world's biggest untapped oil reserve, and you have the threat of them not using the U.S. dollar anymore, and that's a bad situation for the United States. That's why President Trump has gone in there to try and bring back the power, maintain the power of the United States and the dollar. Because without the strength of the dollar, States is in a really bad spot, really bad, and nothing will save it. Maybe something would save it, but in the short term, nothing would save it. So I could see why he did it, why he wants to do it. Do I agree with how he does it? No, I have that problem with President Trump a lot. Some of the things I agree with what he's doing, but how he's doing it, I don't agree with. And I think a lot of the people in this country have a problem with that. And it's something that if you're in the middle and you're center left, wondering what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, That's an approach that I think we need to look at, because the other angle on this invasion is socialism versus capitalism. And let me just explain why that ties in. I mean, we're seeing a big rise in socialism in the United States. Zoran Mandami, the mayor of New York, has an incredible social media presence and media presence. In fact, I was listening to Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, and he had said he had just met him. This is last week at the time of the new year. He was in New York and he got to meet Mamdani just briefly. He said what he talked about is how he met his social media staff. And he was so impressed with his social media staff because they were so on top of every algorithm and every point they had to make to get market share. But I'm not going to explain it. Here's Mr. Wonderful talking about it.
Kevin O'Leary joins me now. Great to see you, Kevin. The socialist era in New York City has officially begun. What are your thoughts?
Well, I actually met the man for the first time. I was trying to for quite a while. Last week at the premiere of Marty Supreme, the movie I'm involved in, he came as a celebrity guest.
Yeah.
He was well received. I spoke to him for maybe no more than 3 or 4 minutes, but congratulated him on the win. Here's the thing that I realized. Very charismatic guy, very nice. Everybody wanted to meet with him, hang out with him. I had a chance to talk to his social media team, the woman that led that. They are defining the new rules of politics, in my view. His win is a demonstration of data science. He did a spectacular job in making sure none of his competitors got near him in the vote by using social media. So he is, in fact, forming a new form of leadership for the Democratic Party. But above all, for all politicians going into the midterms, they have to look at his model. He did it in a way that no one has ever done it before. He knew every algorithm on every platform, how to keep every engagement in the top quartile. That's how it's done. He set the standard.
Yeah, but it doesn't make him a good leader. He can work out all the algorithms, but when you get right down to it, what has he led before and what's he going to do for the city?
Well, now you're talking policy, Ashley, and I'm glad you are, because that's exactly what I asked him. I said, you've won.
Wow.
Now the hard part begins. How are you going to commit to all this free stuff, including the free buses, the free food, all this free stuff, when you don't even control a budget? That goes to the governor. And I think now he has to swing to the center, and everybody's waiting for policy, as am I. I think his job gets really hard in the next 6 months.
Absolutely.
So, that's what he's all about. And through social media, we're seeing a huge rise in socialism and the Democratic Socialists of America in this country. Let me explain something to you that people still don't get about the Democratic Socialists of America. They have a platform. You can look it up on the internet. It's called the Democratic Socialists of America Political Platform. Please look it up. Don't get one of the summaries. Actually get the actual platform. I will put a link underneath here so that you can get directly to the platform, because everyone needs to read it. It's an anti-white colonialism document. It's one of the most racist documents I've ever read. Seriously, I call it AOC's Project 2028 because she's the one that's going to be running for president. And Mandami is following this script of the Democratic Socialists of America. And one of the things that's in it is supporting the normalization with Cuba, Iran, and Venezuela and other countries targeted for resisting U.S. imperialism. Those are socialist countries that, honestly, I know a lot of people from all three of those countries, Iran, Cuba, and Venezuela. And then they have a whole another section on relations with China as well. And you got to understand in this document also is they want out of NATO. They don't want anything to do with anybody white, right? So they want out of NATO and Europe. The Democratic Socialists of America want nothing to do with Europe. Anybody who they consider white colonialists. So that means NATO. You understand Europe and Eastern Europe and Western Europe and the United States and Canada for that matter, because they're white and white. They consider them all white colonialists. But everyone I know from Iran, Cuba, and Venezuela that live in the United States want nothing to do with those countries that they came from. They want to live here. They love it here. They love capitalism. Socialism has sucked in those countries. Just look it up. Go there if you want. Go see what it's like. And then you have socialists and you have people on the far right, like Tucker Carlson, who is backing Venezuela and Qatar. I mean, it makes no sense to me. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But is that what we want in this country? Because people are being, manipulated online through social media about how great democratic socialism, and they're not even being told the truth about it. The truth about democratic socialism is it's never really worked. We have socialist policies in our country. Yeah, we do. They came about very slowly and they were thought through. Social Security, right? The welfare state. Do we need to improve our welfare state in this country? Yeah, we do. It has to be done in a moderate, pragmatic way in order for it to work, in order for it to stick. The way Mamdani wants to do it and the socialists, you can't just give everything away for free either. It just doesn't work. It's never proven. It's always turned to violence. Out of 30 million people in Venezuela, 8 million people have left since Maduro came in and took office. 8 million have been looking for a new life. Venezuela sucks, okay? Nobody wants to live there. Listen, please comment on this stuff below, what you think. I mean, I know that people really, like the idea of socialism. It's mind-boggling to me, but there's so many people that all of a sudden are attaching themselves to the socialistic views without really digging deep into what Mamdani's socialism really stands for, what the Democratic Socialists of America really stand for. They're a racist organization, and I don't know whether their end game is Sharia law or not, because that's what it feels like to me. The end game is Sharia law, because really the way his staff, Mamdani, and the way he's directing what he's doing in New York, I mean, yeah, he's a really personable, charismatic guy, and he says and does all the right things sometimes, but his actions and his words are two different things. People need to pay attention to that. So how is Zohran Mamdani able, the day after President Trump goes and invades Venezuela, how is Mamdani able to get on the phone with him? Why is the mayor of New York calling, President Trump? Why was he able to get through to him? That's something I don't understand either. Why are people even listening to him? But they're listening to him because of his social media presence and what his social media team has done, because they have done an incredible job. And is that what, in my opinion, there's sort of a brainwashing going on, and something I don't really understand that well. This is something Americans need to think about, because socialism is on the rise. I hear Democrats talking, and what scares me is you have what I considered moderate Democrats talking more and more like socialists. And Democrats want to kind of move more left, move towards Mamdani and Bernie and AOC. And if you read the Democratic Socialists of America political platform, they want equality and all this stuff. It's a racist document. They're a racist platform. You have to read it. It's anti-white. And I can't believe, because when I grew up, I thought things were getting better. Seriously. I was born in the 60s and I grew up in the 60s and 70s. And I was a kid when they started busing. When I first started elementary school, I went to a school that was, had one black kid. It was all white. But then it was not long after that, I think I was in 4th grade or 5th grade, when they started busing. And you know what? It wasn't a problem. Not in elementary school, it wasn't a problem. Everybody got along really well. A lot of the kids knew each other through sports and stuff like that, and community activities and church and various other, things, that happened in the community. I thought things were getting better through the years. I thought racism was getting better and better. And obviously there's always people that are racist, but now we see more divided than ever. And racism is worse than it's ever been in some respects, and not against just, black and white, but everybody. I mean, especially the Jews right now. Everybody's on the Jews. I don't know. I don't understand it. Blacks, everybody hates each other. So in one respect, I understand, the MAGA movement, make America great again, because we were going in the right direction at one time. And now with DEI and on the left, and the socialists on the left, and the talking heads on the left, and then you have the right with the MAGA movement, which, they're being accused of being white-centric and white supremacists. And then you have the talking heads on the right who everyone thinks we overuse the words Nazi, but they seem more in line with Nazi and socialists, actually Stalin and Lenin and that crew, than they do with, centrist Democrats and Republicans. So when it comes to Venezuela, you're talking about a socialist country, right? Actually gone into the shithole. Right? People are struggling there. There's no economic future as it stands in Venezuela. just drugs and illegal stuff that's happening all the time, and cartels and criminal activity, and nothing for the regular people, right? Which is what the socialists say they're fighting for, the regular people. The Democrats say they're fighting for the regular people. And the Republicans had said they were fighting for the regular people. So where is the middle? Where's the pragmatism? Where is realistic, constructive ideas to help the regular people? What are they? And should we just accuse? Should we accuse? Because that's all we're doing, right? And, how do we take the next step? Because I can go on all day about the pros and cons of Venezuela. And you have, the far left, the Mandamis saying, oh my God, this is such the worst thing. Obama and Bush both did it. Let's be real, right? You have a past Democratic president recent and a past Republican president recently that both did the same thing that Trump just did. And did it work out? Did either of them work out? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. For the same reason, though, the petrodollar, basically, it's kept the United States economy alive. So I don't know. You tell me. This is a topic that needs to be discussed more, thought about. Let me know what you think. Comment below. See if we're on the right track. What's the middle ground on this? Where does the center left stand? Where do some of the politicians on the center left stand on this? I haven't really heard from John Fetterman. People. The senator from my state, Catherine Cortez Masto, or Jackie Rosen hasn't really stepped in. Some of the governors like Josh Shapiro and Wes Moore and Gretchen Whitmer, who I consider, center left politicians. Where do they stand on this issue? What are they thinking about? How are they addressing it? The only one that's come out and said anything, the only one that's made the news is Mamdani. I don't know how everybody feels about that. Why is the mayor of New York a worthless mayor who's never going anywhere except, driving the socialistic train? And it's not really him. He's the headpiece out front, because he has all these people who are really running the show, Linda Sarsour and company, right? I hope people understand that. But we know their stance. They're the only ones that I know their stance. And really, the far left and the far right have the same stance. Why are you going into Venezuela? If you listen to Tucker Carlson and his crew and Marjorie Taylor Greene and probably Candace Owens, although I haven't heard her, but I'm assuming that's true. But then the far left, right, the talking heads, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, looks like a Jew. Sure, she's not Jewish. Kind of weird. And she yaps. I don't even know what to say. And their crew and their whole crew on the left, and obviously the Mamdani crew, they're all saying the same thing. I don't know where we sit in the middle. Seriously, where's the pragmatism? Where's the empathy and what's going to finally bind Americans to come together and say, okay, this is what we need to do. This is how we're going to survive in the United States as a country. Here's how we're going to bring pride back to the United States. Not just on one side or the other, but for everyone or most everyone. My next show, I think we need to talk about Section 230. It's something that seriously needs to be discussed. And where does the middle stand on Section 230 and healthcare? Another thing that, the middle really has to think about. So let's get together. Let's try and think about this stuff. Comment. Let me know what you're thinking. I appreciate it.